when Crystal Dynamix picked up the franchise, I honestly didn't know what to think at first. I mean, like I said, they're mostly a PC gaming company, and the only console games that they put out were the Legacy of Kain series. I liked Soul Reaver. I enjoyed the first Legacy of Kain game. They were a lot of fun, and I thought it might have been an interesting idea for them to get the franchise.
Well, Tomb Raider going to Crystal Dynamics was basically just kind of a thing where I said, okay, they can't possibly do any more damage than Core's already done to it. Crystal Dynamics had made some decent games at that point, but I didn't have any particular opinion one way or the other about where the games were going to go. I believe Crystal Dynamics had largely been handling various parts of the Legacy of Kain series at that point, I want to say. And those games were fine. They weren't games that I really ever needed to play again, but they worked okay enough.
When Crystal Dynamics and Eidos showed off the new Lara Croft in her little booty shorts and kind of like a weird looking haltered top t-shirt, like weird tank top type thing, I wasn't sure what to think at first. I was like, I guess they're trying to make her sexy but make her look more athletic in a sense. And I'm fine with that, but I wanted to see the game. And when they finally showed off the game and I actually got to play the demo, I was actually quite impressed. I thought the technology behind this as a next generation franchise when it came out for the 360 was pretty impressive. I liked how the game progressed, and I couldn't wait for it to come out.
I felt like the evolution of the Tomb Raider franchise going from Legend onward was actually really a good thing. Lara, as a solitary character who just went in and did whatever, raided some tombs and did all this different stuff, was getting kind of old. So giving her backup with somebody who was more of an anthropological expert and somebody who was a computers expert made a lot of sense, that she would have a team to back her up on her missions. That was sensible and it worked for me. The fact that they seem to have a cohesive narrative to go forward with, where instead of just, okay, here's a game, here's some dudes, kill some dudes, here's a tomb, go raid the tomb, they actually had a direction that they wanted to go in. At the time, it seemed like a really good idea, and I was really interested in where they were going to go with it.
So when I finally got Legends, I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed the new Lara Croft. I mean, she wasn't just some strong, independent woman. She actually, had a couple of sidekicks this time around. People that would give her intel, people that, helped her out along in her travels. She wasn't this perfect woman either. Now that she was fallible. She could make mistakes, and they were there to help her get out of these tough times. The gameplay itself, I really enjoyed the world. I enjoyed the puzzles. I enjoyed, the concept of her having the grappling hook, which I thought was really nifty in terms of both, exploring a stage and solving puzzles. What I liked the most about the game was actually the story. I liked how they humanized Lara Croft in a sense that, they gave her, sure, okay, she's raiding tombs and she's looking for puzzles, but once certain things about her past start coming light, in fact, they also explore her past. They get into the roots of Lara Croft, and one of my favorite moments in the game is actually when you get to the end and you see an enraged Lara Croft pistol whip one of her former friends trying to find out where her mother is. And right there, I was like, hot damn! And I was really looking forward to any future games after that. I thought Crystal Dynamics was the perfect suitor for the franchise.
Tomb Raider Legend itself, I felt was a really good game. I'm not going to say that it's my favorite in the series, but it's definitely one of the best games in the series. I felt like I don't really like active time events in general in video games, but the active time events in Tomb Raider generally worked pretty well because the game slowed itself down a good long time to give you the opportunity to interact with them. And you weren't screwed if you missed the prompt, so it handled them about as well as you're going to. The actual other mechanics basically felt like, the redesigned Prince of Persia and how they worked. So I felt like mechanically the game was a lot better. The redesign of Lara Croft was, instead of doing the blue, the aquamarine swimsuit thing with the brown shorts, just going with a straight safari looking outfit was fine. Just in general, I felt like it was handled very well. It was a good return to form for the character in the franchise, and I felt it was a good place to go forward from. like, I feel like the game in general was a good experience. I don't feel like it had the same impact of the original, so I don't really feel like there was anything extremely memorable about it. Like, I mean, there were definitely interesting sequences. I thought it was, like, the sequence where Lara gets the Excalibur sword at the end of the game and just starts going bug crazy on everyone with it was pretty entertaining. But beyond that, like, actually the Nepal stage where you were jumping around through the ice canyon was a pretty interesting section too. But the game didn't have like those moments of the first one, both because it just wasn't structured in that capacity, and it wasn't like, it was a different time. You weren't going to be like, oh about things the way that you were with the original.
When they announced the 10th anniversary game, I wasn't sure why they would do that. Like, they would do a remake. Crystal Dynamix did come out and say that they were actually paying homage to the game, to the original game. But it turns out that they are actually also using the game as part of a larger story arc. Upon playing it, I have to say that I really liked the changes they made to the game. I really enjoyed... I actually liked how when you played the first level of the game, like that opening segment right there when you crawl, where you run through the area where they shoot the arrows at the beginning, they have the first secret right there. You climb up the cliff, you shoot the bats, and then you fall down into that one little area. I liked that. I liked how they reintroduced, characters like Natla and Jacques. All these characters, they actually give them more life than what they had in the first game. And I liked how the overall, like, puzzle element was still there, but they expanded upon it. Like, oh, okay, like in level 3 when you fought the T-Rex, you actually didn't just go out of your way to find a gear to, clear the waterfall so you can get into the temple. No, you actually had to find a gear, and then you had to find a switch to actually, get the machine device working. And that involved you climbing a whole bunch of different cliffs. So... And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was pleased. I actually think I enjoyed it a lot more than the first game too.
I really liked Tomb Raider Anniversary, honestly. It's the lowest selling game in the franchise, which I feel like is kind of disappointing, because I feel like it's, honestly, at this point, comparatively, it's a much better game than the original Tomb Raider was. Sorry, but it plays a lot better, the levels are a lot better structured, they handle things a lot better overall for the most part, and it's actually a game that, you can complete without too much difficulty. I feel like they did a really good job remaking it within the confines of the Legend engine, and I feel like having it available as DLC that you could just add on to Legend if you had the 360 was a smart move. I feel like it was a good idea, and I feel like it was a good game, and I honestly wish that more people had bought and played it. Insofar as the issue with changing around the boss battles in Anniversary from Legend, I thought the boss battles against humans in Legend were kind of stupid. Like, they had, like, the boss battle against... They had, like, 2 boss battles against regular people, one against the Yakuza boss, and another one against just this guy. And, okay, I'm supposed to believe that these people are superpowered because they have this piece of this sword, and it's making them bullet sponges. No. Okay? No. We're growing up, we're getting older, this is kind of a little silly. So I like that in Tomb Raider Anniversary, it was just you would meet normal people, and instead of them being bullet sponges that you had to kill for half an hour, they reserved that for the T-Rex battle and the couple of giant monsters that you faced. And the regular people were just like, 2 or 3 button prompts. The active time events, again, were not difficult, and there was no reason to make me go through this, 20-minute long sequence of firing bullets into this dude when, we've played plenty of games now that just treat humans as humans. You can kill a human in one shot, you can kill a human in one whatever. Special things get, like, the super powerful big health bar. And I feel like that was a lot more realistic, and it was better for it.
So, the remake, I don't think it did too much justice to the original. I mean, you had certain fights. You had, like, the fight with the wolves in the beginning. You had different things that you would remember that are memorable. But I don't think that the dinosaur... I mean, they hyped up the dinosaur fight too much, because the dinosaur fight in the original had the scary Tomb Raider theme music coming on, and you didn't know what was coming out, and out the corner you come the dinosaur, and you had to just fight him. In the new one, you had the cutscene. They wanted to make it, epic, as they would say, and bringing just a total new scene to it. And I just don't feel like it worked. Like, when I saw it, I was just, oh, that's cool. But then I thought to myself, it just doesn't feel right. Quick time events, it just doesn't feel Tomb Raider-esque.
When they finally announced and then released Tomb Raider Underworld, I was ecstatic. I was a fan of Tomb Raider again, like the first two games, and I felt like, that with Crystal Dynamix at the lead, that, they could do no wrong at this point. But I felt like, Tomb Raider Underworld, while it was great, I felt it missed the mark in some areas. Like, I didn't like the idea of a doppelganger, and I didn't like how they were treating the DLC exclusivity. Like, I had the PC version, but if I wanted to play the doppelganger, like, themed missions, I had to have the Xbox 360 copy. And to this day, it's still Xbox 360 exclusive. What I did enjoy was, I did enjoy the darker tone of the game. I enjoyed how Lara Croft was, like, literally, like, at a point hitting rock bottom in her search to try and find her mother, find a way to rescue her mother. I liked how they brought back, Natla, because, like I said, it was it was like a giant 3-game story arc they had going on. I liked how they also brought back Laura's ex-best friend, who she pistol whipped at the end of at the end of Legends. I liked how amazingly beautiful, how huge, how just serene the environments were. I mean, when you played the demo that they released, yeah, sure, it was just Lara Croft in her wetsuit, swimming in beautiful crystal clear water, climbing these cliffs that were filled with lots of lush flora, and you saw, like, parrots and all that stuff, and then as you get to the end, you fight a giant blind octopus. That was awesome. But then, once you finally play the game, and you see that everything is just so much bigger, even when you're, like, in London and you're trying to get into these ancient tombs, like, outside of London, it's raining, it's dark, you can see, like, you can see the specks and the drops of the rain as it hits the ground, and then you go into the tomb, you can see the dust, you can see the debris, you just hear the creaks, the cracks. It's just such an immersive game. But like I said, it just, like, it missed the mark on some areas that I was just not a fan of.
I felt like Tomb Raider Underworld, like, the darker theme, the darker tone, was as good of a concept as anything else. Like, the trailers were, oh, Laura blew up her mansion. Why did she blow up her mansion? What's going on? And then they had the Excalibur story trying to figure out, oh, well, Laura's mother didn't die. She disappeared one day out in the mountains, and now we found Excalibur, and what's that going to lead to? And I felt like that they had, like, a more visually interesting engine to it. I felt like that they had done more to improve the engine, improve the specifics of it. Just looking at the game in general, I said this game is going to look better than Legend. Hopefully it's going to maintain the good mechanics and add in better mechanics along the way. The plot looks interesting. I'm okay. I'm as okay as I'm going to be with a darker themed Lara Croft, because at least now I feel like maybe Crystal Dynamix can do something with it. So I was looking forward to it.
Now, overall, the story arc of the Crystal Dynamic trilogy, I thought it was great. In fact, that's the best part about it, and that's why I like Crystal Dynamics. I mean, when they were in charge of the Legacy of Kain series, that they had strong stories, strong elements, strong characters, and they did that with the Tomb Raider trilogy that they had. Whereas the original 6 Tomb Raider games, the story just was there. And Lara Croft was just, okay, hey, I'm going to go in heads first, gun blazing, and that's me. In this game, she actually is calculating, she's resourceful, she has, people that help her out, and she has real adversity, she has real feelings, she's human. And that's what I liked about the new Lara Croft with Crystal Dynamics, was that she was so human, so fallible, and when you see how to the lengths of which she'll go to, like, rescue her mother, it was just that made you want to connect with Lara Croft and see where they might take her next.
Well, here's the thing with Tomb Raider Underworld. All right, as a game, mechanically speaking, it's good. I like it as a game mechanically. I feel like it works very well. I really like the level structure in general. Like, just the levels are variable within themselves. Like, in the first stage, you're swimming around underwater, and it's beautiful, and you're looking for all this different stuff, and then you climb out, and you're in, Heimdall, and going around the underwater cave, and then you come out, and you're running around, and you're on a boat, and shooting at all these people and whatever. It's a really interesting combination in one level. 3 different environments, different styles of play going through everything in one level. It works. and it's interesting, and they more or less did that well in the game. I feel like on that front, on a visual front, on the mechanical front, the game worked really well. From a plot perspective, I don't really feel like the plot worked very well. Just because I really feel like they kind of said, well, what are we going to do with Laura's mom? And then they did what they did with Laura's mom. Since that game is still, like, fairly current, we'll leave that as spoilers. But, like, they just did what they did, and it was just like, that's it. Like, I felt like they could have done more with the concept than they ultimately ended up doing. Especially considering, at least in Tomb Raider Legend, Laura came off as kind of a bitch. So I just felt like there was more room for explanation and development instead of, a doppelganger did it. And, you know, the gods are dicks and whatever. You know, it's just, there could have been more done there. It could have been more interesting than it ended up being. I also kind of didn't feel like we needed to go back to the boss from the first game in order to pull everything together for the last game. But whatever. It was fine. It was a good game. I just don't feel like plot-wise it did what it needed to do.
When Crystal Dynamix announced that they were going to do a reboot alongside of a side Tomb Raider game that wasn't Tomb Raider, but it was Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, I was curious as to why they would do that. To be honest, I was so enamored with the Lara Croft that they created from their trilogy. I mean, I liked her so much. You connected with her in a way that, you know, some people wish you could connect with their characters. Like, I had a hard time trying to connect with the Prince from the Prince of Persia trilogy. But, you know, Lara Croft here, she was a genuine character that I liked. Why would you want to reboot that? Well, their excuse was that they wanted to try and recreate Lara Croft. They feel that she became stagnant or whatever, and they wanted to show her from her roots. My question is, so her storyline originally was that she survived the jungle with her mom in a plane crash. So we're gonna get to see that? No, it turns out she survives an island via kind of like Lost with a crew of people when her ship crashed. So now I'm like, okay, so it's a birthing type of storyline. Lara Croft, you know, weak, unresourceful, unknowing, doesn't know what she's gonna do. And she's forced and thrust into a situation, which I guess is fine. And I was interested in seeing where they would go with it. I was going to give this game a legitimate shot.
What did I think about a Tomb Raider reboot? Ugh. Not a fan. I'm not a fan of reboots in general. If your franchise has been dead like 10, 15 years, like Splatterhouse or XCOM or something like that, that's fine. If your franchise has had a successful game in the past couple of years, Tomb Raider, Devil May Cry, Castlevania, I'm not on board. I'm sorry, I'm not on board. Especially if I was a fan of the original direction. I like, at this point, Tomb Raider Underworld Lara Croft, I liked her as a character. She speaks multiple different languages, she's a gymnast, she's an expert marksman, she's incredibly intelligent, she's a strong, smart, capable woman who is developed into a character that female players, for the most part, can kind of appreciate and enjoy. They can be like okay with her. And when they rebooted the game, it's like, oh well, here's our new Lara Croft, and everybody was like, yay, she's wearing pants, and yay, her boobs aren't double D. And I'm like, okay, great. Cup size is not in any way, shape, or form an indication of whether or not this character's any good. And Lara Croft in pants is resolved literally by rendering Lara Croft in pants. If that's the only thing that we're getting out of your reboot, I don't give a fuck.
So, the new Tomb Raider reboot, I think it may do a bit of justice to the old games. It's just, you know, she's starting out young, and I've seen many pictures. She's a beat up, but she looks tough. It's just, I don't think she still has. I always imagine Lara Croft as being maybe not older, but maybe late 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, I guess. But she was tough. She wasn't just a girl. She looked like a girl in these latest ones, in these latest photos that I've seen. I haven't done too much research, but I say that it might do the game justice. I mean, with the enhanced graphics nowadays and new things, I think it can do well.
Taking a look at the Tomb Raider reboot so far, where do I think the Tomb Raider reboot is ultimately going? In the toilet. I'm sure it's going to play fine. I'm sure it's going to look fantastic. I'm sure it's going to be a game that's going to be very enjoyable. I don't care. I don't care. The character is utterly, you know, it's just, we're doing the breaking the cutie thing again, and okay, well, we did this with Jason, whatever his name was, in Far Cry 3, where he was this person thrust out of unlikely circumstances into this environment where he has to go save his friends and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine, but that's not, that didn't play off as a breaking the cutie moment. That came off of him having to develop into this strong, powerful warrior in order to murder these people. And with Laura, it's just you just look at the game and you're just going to be like, she's going to cry a whole lot, and it's just going to be really annoying because you're just going to be like, okay, so we're going to have to watch her become strong by watching her be a whiner for like 6 hours, and I'm just not on board. The character is not going to, I don't feel, is going to do anything significant to distinguish herself from other characters in the same position. I don't feel that even in one game she's going to come 1/10 as far as the actual Lara Croft character does. If they want to reboot the game, that's fine. If that's where they want to start Tomb Raider from, that's great. But I don't feel like this character is going to be as strong as the real, more or less, Lara Croft. I don't even feel that she's going to be as strong as Nathan Drake. Sorry.
Now, there's lots of footage out there about the reboot. Like, the first 40 minutes has been released and stuff like that of gameplay. And as much as I enjoyed watching all this stuff, I mean, I feel as if they're going in like one kind of linear position. I feel like they're going in one weird direction with the franchise, and that direction is that they want to turn this game to like torture porn. I mean, all I've seen so far is Lara Croft, doing some mild combat while getting hit, beaten, battered, bruised, and potentially raped by everything that's thrown at her. Literally everything is almost thrown at her except the kitchen sink, but I'm sure IDOS is going to find some way to throw the kitchen sink at her. I feel as if there might not be much of a game there, because, I mean, I'm not a fan of, like, just seeing someone get beat up for 10 to 12 hours. I want to, like, play an adventure game, and yeah, I'm fine with the idea of Lara Croft learning how to, like, survive. I would like to see more about the game, and I'm hoping that the game turns out to be a good game, but, most reboots have not been very kind. Outside, I can't really think of a single game that had a reboot that is actually any good. So, I'm hoping Tomb Raider reboot is genuine. It's a good game, and I hope it's not just, seeing Lara Croft get the crap beat out of her for 10 to 12 hours.
It won't just be Lara Croft raiding tombs anymore. Now it's a young Lara Croft before she becomes the Tomb Raider, and it's going to allow us to experience the growth and her transition into becoming that badass, badass treasure hunter that we saw in the earlier games. Now we're going to see Lara Croft as just a normal person who basically has to step up and become badass based on the poor situations that she's put in, and it makes it a lot easier to relate to the character, and it's not just a sex object anymore. Now she's a person. Now she's a real person, someone we can care about, someone we can engage with, and I really can't wait for that. So this will probably be the first Tomb Raider game I get in over a decade.
Where do I think Tomb Raider could lead the franchise? Once again, in the toilet. I feel like they had a lot of really good ideas that they still get to explore with the current Tomb Raider, with the actual Tomb Raider, not this rebooted stuff. Because they had like the Xbox Live Arcade game that came out that was the two-player co-op Smash TV kind of thing. It was really a lot of fun. It was really interesting, and I felt like they could have done more with original Lara Croft, put it that way, that they hadn't done yet. Like I said in an article I wrote, well, okay, you want to do something where you're taking it back to its roots, where you're doing early Lara Croft. Okay. When Lara Croft was 10 years old, she crashed into the mountains with her mother and had to survive by herself for days until she climbed out of the snowy wastes back to civilization. You could tell that story, and I'd pay money for it. This story that you're telling right now, defenseless Lara Croft having to survive on an island, is that story in a tropical island instead of in the Arctic wastes, which is fine, but I've already played it in Far Cry 3, and I'm betting it was better in Far Cry 3. I'm sure the game is going to be fine, but I'm absolutely certain that there's nowhere interesting that they can go from this that they couldn't have gone from with the original character. if it's going to be more of Lara being young and unassured and, you know, not the strong character that she is now, it's just going to end up getting more accusations of, you know, treating women like they're basically weak and worthless, so that's not going to help anybody. And if we end up making her a strong, capable character at the end of this game, congratulations, it took you a game to get to where you already were. I don't see it doing anything. I don't see it adding anything to the universe that couldn't have already been accomplished with the original character. It's fine. I'm sure the game is going to be fine. It's just a waste of time for everybody involved.
I think this generation of gaming, especially what Sony has done to gaming in the past few years, Sony has really been pushing forwards for more cinematic games. That's why we have games like Uncharted or Heavenly Sword, games like that where it's not just a game anymore, it's an experience, it's a movie. And it's about story, it's about characterization, and that entire thing is what makes the game. It's not just the gameplay anymore. You need a good story. You need characters that people can really relate to. And this new Tomb Raider looks to be doing that. It's looking to do what previous games have done and expand on it. And for the first time ever with a female lead, actually, no, it's not the first time ever. We had Heavenly Sword, which had a female lead. But, you know, to one that people can really relate to, because you couldn't relate to Nariko and Heavenly Sword. Now, I've been a big fan of the Uncharted series for a long time now, ever since the first game came out in 2009. And I really like what has happened since then. I like these cinematic games. I've always been an advocate for good stories. I could even tolerate bad gameplay if the story is there. And Tomb Raider, they seem to be really pushing the story element to it. The gameplay looks pretty similar to what we've seen in either Uncharted or Far Cry, games like that, except in the third-person thing rather than Far Cry being first-person. And that could be good because both those games have really good gameplay.
I think I've enjoyed maybe 50% of the Tomb Raider franchise, which, given how many franchises are below that, is pretty good. Beyond that, hopefully this game is, you know, better than I expect it to be. I don't think it's going to be, but hopefully it exceeds my admittedly very low expectations, and you know, it ends up being a good game that stands on its own 2 feet, and we can get back to having a Lara that's actually strong and competent again, even if it's a different one. I'm willing to take what I can get, you know. But if not, it was good while it lasted, I suppose.
It's been weird, you know, playing over 9-10 different Tomb Raider games and somehow managing to stick it through and still be a fan is I guess is an accomplishment in some weird way, because literally there was 3 good games, then it hit rock bottom. Now we got 3 more great games, and then you had a little artsy arcade game which was kind of fun, and now you've got the 11th game coming out in the franchise, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's a good game, because I don't know, I don't want to see the franchise hit rock bottom again, unlike, you know, some characters like Sonic the Hedgehog. So I'm hoping to play the new Tomb Raider game soon.